Dear researchers, dear colleagues, I would like to welcome you to our weekly meeting, Journal Club, which we started 2 years ago to promote scientific research and cooperation between departments of University Medical Center Maribor. Today we are in the second round, meaning that all of our 43 departments have been already presented, some of them twice already. Sometimes we invite some distinguished external lecturers to present the possibilities of cooperation between his institution and our institution. Today is such an occasion, so I am very pleased to warmly welcome our guest, Professor Lynch, which will talk about important field area of research he is dealing with, and I hope that we will cooperate with him in the future. We are already cooperating because he is a part of our research project, ORODJU, and I hope that we will spread the cooperation in the other areas. I am convinced that you will enjoy listening about the possibilities of artificial intelligence we can use in our research projects. And I hope that we will cooperate as I already talked with each other. Thank you very much.
Writers of the different fundings. I had the possibility to test it, and the outcomes are very exciting. And no further ado, more about that, Dr. Jonaha Lynch. Jonah, they're all yours.
Thank you. It is a real pleasure to be here. It's the first time I've come to Slovenia, and although I've met several Slovenians in my life and have enjoyed them, I hadn't ever been here, so I'm glad to visit and glad to be welcomed at your university and the medical center. What I have to talk about today is the fruit of about 5 years of my research, and you are the first group of actual researchers that I'm presenting it to. Last week I was in San Francisco trying to find some funding, so I was talking to people there who don't care about research, they care about profit. But the reason for this program is more for improving research. So what I want to talk about here is, I've given this title, To Navigate Information Overload. Now I don't think that this is a problem that is unknown to researchers. We have an enormous amount of articles are published every week. And one of the obvious things that you could say is that we cannot do good research for the future if we don't take into account all of the knowledge that has already been produced. But we also know that it's impossible to read all of the information that has been produced, even for a very small domain. So what can we do? This is a problem that I'm obviously not the only person to pose, and there are other tools which aim to help in various ways, help navigate this. I'll name them, a few of them in a moment. But first, to show you what we're talking about, let's look at just one online repository. This is Archive, the physics, math, and computer science repository located at Cornell University, which was the first major online free preprint repository. You can see that this is number of monthly submissions from the beginning, the inception of the project in the early 1990s until today. We're now talking about over 24,000 articles every month just on this repository. If you use PubMed, you know that it's much more than that, and the number appears to be increasing exponentially. So what can we do in such a situation? I began asking about this question during my doctoral research. I was aware of the problem before that, but when I started doing doctoral research, I realized that it was a very serious problem. And I began to try to model scientific debate and build what I called intellectual prosthetics. So some form of tool that can extend the ability of my mind to manage a large amount of information. One of the tools that I built turned into a program for teaching or helping to teach critical thinking. I deployed this in a school a few years ago in Italy. It was only a pilot study, and I never was able to bring it beyond that level, but the idea was students should be presented with information that is close to what they think, but different enough that it challenges some of their assumptions. And then as the network of information that each student has seen expands, they can critically think and connect their point of view to more different points of view and eventually triangulate their position and be able to recognize a true position from a false position or from an incomplete position more easily. By building that software, I started to think about how scientific debate can be modeled. And I built a knowledge graph representation which looks something like this if we zoom into a very tight area where there is different affirmations modeled by the nodes. The affirmations are connected to other affirmations in a variety of ways. This is a simple model that's showing basically agreement and disagreement belonging to the same text and similarity, various metrics of being a similar affirmation, although it could agree or disagree. So I'm not going to talk in detail about how this model works and to what degree it's useful, but just to give you an idea of some of the background of what I want to present today. Besides that, this is all present in my PhD research, so if you want to read my thesis, you're welcome. The other people who have thought about this problem of information overload, some of them have developed software such as NOVEM, which is a large atlas of many, many scientific articles, and through a spatial representation, it helps you to zoom in on the parts that may be most interesting for you. Illicit is an automated form of literature review, which is pretty good. It has its limits, but it's a lot better than what most scientists do, which is take some random sample of the articles that are relevant, but without necessarily being exhaustive over the existing literature. And there are others too, Cite, Web of Science, and so forth. My project uses Leland McInnes, who developed the UMAP algorithm. He also developed another called Data Map Plot, which is a Python package for showing complex networks of information in a way which is extremely intuitive and easy to navigate. So a lot of the visualizations I'm using are inspired by his work, so I wanted to name him. He's also an extremely approachable person, and I messaged him directly to have some ideas for some of the parts. Okay, so what does it do? In order to navigate the enormous amount of information available on these preprint archives, which is something on the order of 40 million scientific articles, I worked to develop an algorithm that would help optimize the distance between the existing distribution of information and the research that could be valuable in the near future. And in a moment I'll show you exactly why and how I can say that. But for the moment, just to give you the intuitive understanding, if we continue to work in the same subjects that have already been studied, we may dot the I's and cross the T's and make things more precise, but it is unlikely that we will do something that is groundbreaking. If, however, we go way outside of the existing domain, it is unlikely that we will produce research that is valuable, either because we're wrong and there is not enough basis for the conclusions we draw, or because it's too early and others cannot understand or appreciate the work we do. So there is some kind of optimal distance where you step outside of the existing, but you don't go too far. This idea developed, as I said, over about 5 years, and I tested different ways to define this distance and measure it and predict it. Last year I had the task of validating, was I right? Was my algorithm actually useful? And I spent several months doing that, and the day that finally I was going to press run on my algorithm and see if the results were good. I was very scared because I thought, what if I've wasted all these years, So I didn't press run for a few hours, and then I said, well, as a scientist, I would like to know, am I right or not? And so in the solitude of my room, I let it go, and then it came out. There's a statistically significant result, and I was jumping around the house, very happy about that. So what do I mean by a statistically significant result? That the predictions, I was using a label as if I stopped using data at 2020, could I predict the articles that would gain more than 1,000 citations after 2020? So the last 5 years, 4 years, as the labels for the predictive algorithm. The data set I used for this validation was only archive and computer science. So this is a subset of about 500,000 articles, which means that next week I have to start validating the other subjects, so physics and math in archive, and then all of the PubMed various categories. So I'm going to do that soon, but right now the validation that I have to present regards only the computer science. And this is the first result. So in order to compare my predictions with something, the first baseline I used was if I'm talking about the space being the two-dimensional space, sorry, it's not a two-dimensional space, but the space of articles as being, I've said space too many times. What I want to say is that I'm making predictions that correspond to a place, a location in this space. In order to compare them, I'm choosing random locations in that space as the red line. So the more predictions I make, the more good results I get. Okay, so random predictions are on the x-axis, and on the vertical axis I have the high citation articles, so articles that receive more than 1,000 citations within some radius. So here the radius is 0.8, within 0.8 of the prediction that I make. This baseline, as we would expect, increases monotonically. As you make more predictions, you get more good results. The algorithm is producing the blue line, and you can see that there's a lift curve which is separating from the baseline for some range, and I believe that what this means is that at a very large number of predictions, randomness is better than the algorithm. But what that means, I think, is that if you have unlimited resources and you can do research in every space, in every domain, then you're better off spending it in every domain. But if you have limited resources and you can only spend 100 or 200, then you're better off using my algorithm. So that's the first validation of what I'm going to show you in a moment. Now you might object that this is not realistic. Scientists do not randomly choose their topics and then dedicate their resources to the random subjects. Usually, in the space of possible articles, we choose something that is more or less within our existing tradition, and then step out some distance from that domain. If I repeat the procedure using random locations within some distance of the existing domain, the results are actually even worse for baseline and better for the algorithm. So here the algorithm is showing about a 70% increase in high impact articles. So fine, you may say, you are able in some abstract space to predict the locations where high impact articles will occur. But we must reverse engineer that location into something that's useful for the scientist. So this has been one of the most interesting parts of my research, is how to reverse engineer a vector in a high dimensional space and turn it into a text description that can be useful for a researcher. And so this is possible now because the way that large language models work is by encoding text into this high dimensional latent space, and it turns out that you can reverse engineer a vector in that space and recover the original text. Not only, you can reverse engineer a novel vector, which did not exist in the original distribution. And that means that you can recover some information which is somehow interpolating between the existing data points. And this is part of my hypothesis, which I need to test and which I'm here to present to you, because I hope that this interpolation is actually useful. I hope that this interpolation can help us to develop novel ideas for research, so like a brainstorming tool, a hypothesis generation tool, which helps us to take into account fields which are perhaps not our specialties, but which are relevant for the research we're doing. In a moment, I hope to explain and show what that means. And to provide an intuitive way to explore the research topics using the spatial metaphor of location. So, this is what it looks like. This is choosing in the PubMed archive the diseases and pharmaceuticals categories. Unfortunately, at the moment, because of the size of the data involved, I have had to restrict PubMed using their categories. Usually when we search PubMed, we don't care about the category, we search for keywords and authors and things. Unfortunately, at the moment, I am making this restriction, but through iterative use, it's possible to overcome that problem. So let's say the user has made this initial choice, and then you can zoom into the visualization and find something of more specific interest. Perhaps we're interested, say, in Parkinson's disease. We can zoom in there and see. I'll do a live demonstration in a moment, but now I just want to show you the static slides. We can zoom into there, choose the articles of personal interest that represent what we may have already written. We could choose our own articles, for example, or we could choose articles that are similar to what we think we want to write next, and circle them. After doing that, then the algorithm calculates, and it takes some time, maybe a minute or so, to calculate the locations of probable future high-impact articles. So here I've zoomed in a little bit to show you two clusters where those locations are shown in yellow. On this visualization, it's also possible to hover over the existing articles and see what they exactly are, so maybe you could see which ones are most interesting to you. And this is the part where it's actually costly for me, so I have there's GPUs running in the background to do the generation. That has a cost. But at the end of this presentation, I will give you a free coupon, which you may use for the until the end of the month. I am going to fund your research, hoping that it will prove so useful that after that you will want to use the tool. And then, after all of that, you will receive an email, which will show you these calculations. It shows you the title and the abstract for these points that were calculated before using the algorithm. So I hope to make some more improvements to this, where you can have your own personal archive of all of these generations, and then other tools possible. But for the moment, this is the entire tool. Before I continue, I would like to invite you to connect to the LinkedIn page for Innovation Lens, so that you can receive our updates and see the new news that we're generating as we do. As I said, last week I was in San Francisco presenting this. I was only able to secure a small amount of funding, but I think that if we were to show that it is useful, this is the main question that the investors had, if this actually proves to generate ideas for your research, which you would not have thought of on your own, that becomes a very powerful way to turn it into a tool that's useful for many people. So please follow the site. Okay, I think everyone who wanted to has done so. Okay, and this is your free code, KC. You'll be able to generate as many as you want until the end of the month. And if you do so, please respond to the email with your criticism, with your gratitude, hopefully, and with any ideas for improvement that you may have. Okay, so now I would like to step into the risky part, where I do a live demonstration. So we'll wait for all the photos to be taken. If you're missing, maybe Maya, you can email anyone who wants. Okay. So yeah, I have to change the video. Okay. All right. So this is the website, innovationlens.org, and you can read about it. There's a white paper with all of the descriptions of how I validated it. You know, you can read this, how it works to some degree. I'm not explaining everything, but I'm explaining a lot of the detail. Anyway, you can read that. But let's do a live demonstration. Uh-oh. I hate using all the computers that aren't my own. Let's see. Okay. Here we go. So, is there some researcher who is interested and can give me a topic that we can try? Some subject. Would we like to look at archive or PubMed? What would be most useful here?
For example, luminuria.
Sorry?
Luminuria.
Okay. Now I don't know anything about that. Is that biology?
No, it's medicine.
I should go to medicine. So let's go here. Which of these categories would it fit most?
You will get a lot of results. This is physiology, for example, healthcare.
Yeah? All right. Is this correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We could add some more keywords. If we find too many results, we could restrict. For the moment, we'll do it like this. Not too many. Okay. Let's see, what do we have here? So, HbA1c changes in a deprived population, diabetes self-management. Of course, if we're wondering what these articles are about, we can click on the link and see the original PubMed article that it's based on. Is this an area that looks interesting, or should I move somewhere else?
No.
This looks good? Okay. So then let's circle those. And now we can see what it does and how long it takes. It might take a while. No, very good. Okay. So we were able to calculate quickly. This is the existing distribution. We can look at we looked for albuminuria. So we found a small subset of articles. Now we're getting many others that have to do with diabetes and other subjects that are related. Okay, that's good. That's a good proof of reasonability. And then if we want to free for UKC, okay, this is going to be sent to me. This is my business address. And now we wait for it to generate the answer and send it to me. So it'll be about 2 minutes before that arrives. In the meantime, we can do another one if there's another researcher who wants to try it out. Or if there are any questions in general, then we can also start to... Yes, go ahead.
Did you find correlation to the journal impact factor that article was published? How this predicts the citations in the next couple of years, and if the answer is most likely yes, how did you use this as a co-founder in your model?
The citation network, so the bibliographic network, and the journal information is encoded in the model that we're using to embed the articles in the latent space. So that information is encoded already in the decision about the vector that represents each article. The question could be, will that be valid in the future? And I don't know the answer to that. That's one of the, like, it's possible that this is overfitting because it's back testing on a model that is created using that information. So that's what I have to validate now. But the information about the journal and the author and also the citation network is encoded already. Yeah.
So probably there is a good correlation between the impact factor of the journal where article was published and the prediction how many citations we receive in the next 4 years. Is this correct?
That's possible. Yeah, it is likely. The reason that I think it's more generally valuable is because what I'm using for a label is to do the statistical validation against baseline was the impact factor, the number of citations. But the fact that the location in latent space was able to predict that makes me believe that it's also predicting something about the value of the idea and the need for that idea at a certain time. Because we also have the connection between the high impact journal is selecting among possible ideas which ones they want to publish. Yeah, I mean this is what I'm now validating. Whether or not it's a circular logic or whether it's an actual predictive signal. Yes. Thank you. I'd be interested in what subject are you researching?
Personalized medicine, biological drugs in asthma or IBD.
Okay. Can we run a test
Substance.
and see, if we get interesting results, maybe you can help me to know if these are useful or not. So personalized medicine, would this be maybe...
Biomarkers for personalized medicine in asthma or...
In which?
In asthma.
Asthma. Okay. Hold on, before we do that search, we got your answers. So I hope they're good. Okay, so here is the first one. An evaluation of precision-based diabetes care for children and adolescents. The focus of this research is diabetes care, which is an integral component of a national health and safety strategy. The primary objective was to scrutinize the impact of a precision-based approach to diabetes care on children and adolescents diagnosed with type 1 and 2 diabetes. In order to achieve this, a benchmarking analysis is carried out within the framework of the National Health and Safety Strategy. The results of this analysis were then compared to those obtained from a national health and safety strategy that was based on a randomized controlled trial. This is obvious. The findings revealed a significant improvement in diabetes management. Both the National Institutes of Health and the Pediatric and Adult Nutrition and Diabetes and Allergy conducted an analysis to ascertain the effects of diabetes management, precision-based care. Okay, so this is probably interpolating between things that already exist and talking about very generic, so that's maybe not helpful. Let's try this one. The second one, assessing the impact of a dual-pronged approach to diabetes management in Hispanic adults in the United States. In this study, we aim to evaluate the effectiveness of a dual-pronged approach to managing diabetes. We conduct a comparison of the prevalence of diabetes among Hispanic adults residing in rural and urban environments. Despite the overpayments made for preventive therapy programs and glucocorticoid regulation initiatives, these did not significantly influence the outcomes of diabetes. It was observed that these overpayments had comparable effects to the healthcare outcomes. I don't know if there's anything interesting there. So, yes, yeah. So, what I've found so far is that if you generate 2, maybe you're lucky. If you generate 100, you find 2, which are valuable. So, I mean, that I think is the point of the tool, is to be hypothesis generation. Let me show you what happens if we go to the edge of 2 research domains, because this I think is where it's most likely to be useful. Can you help me to understand which topics should I choose here to find your domain?
Disease.
Maybe one other?
Diagnostics.
Okay. And you said asthma?
biomarkers, personalized medicine.
Different keyboard. Maybe this is good enough. Let's try.
So does it help if you're more specific, or it's better to leave more broad range?
This is a problem I've been trying to solve. It's a user interface problem. For the algorithm, it depends on some parameters. How can I say? It's possible to look at a broad domain, but it takes a very long time to calculate. And so a user on a website expects an answer very quickly. And so you cannot, it's better if we focus on 2 or 3 articles instead of a larger range. What you chose as three keywords, I think, is good because we've narrowed down immediately. So you're going to have to help me here if there's anything that looks close to your research that you would be.
Down, respiratory disease.
Down here?
Yeah.
Okay, those summaries are automatically generated. They are approximate. What do you think about the article? Does that look good? The role of exhaled breath condensate in chronic inflammatory and neoplastic diseases of the respiratory tract.
Okay, let's try.
All right, let's try. PubMed is much bigger than Archive. It takes a lot longer to do the calculation. In the meantime, is there any other question? Yes?
Is this meant also for social sciences?
It could be, potentially, but there is no, as far as I know, there is no equivalent free public repository for social sciences. I would like to be able to test it. Okay, this is a more it's probably useful. So with 49 predictions, I am more likely, I feel more confident that one of them or 2 of them will be interesting. So let's do it again. But this will take an hour, so I'm going to ask you for your email, and I'll send it to you when it's done calculating. Yeah, basically the input needs to be a large text database of articles, and I don't have access. I don't have the rights to do that with social sciences at the moment, but I would like to try. Another thing I want to try is patents, to see if there's any pattern in the way that patents are written. Haven't done it yet. Anything else? Okay. Yes?
You mentioned that you are going to add archives from math. This is only for medical resources.
No, the math is already available. I can show you.
What about literary works?
Yeah, I need to have some kind of repository.
Is it going to be added in the future?
If I can find a way to get access, yes, I would be happy to. At the moment, most of those repositories, actually I don't know of any of those repositories that are free. Archive and PubMed are the only 2 that I know of which have a sufficient volume and which are also available for free use. To do other subjects, I would need to pay the publishers, like Springer or one of the publishers to have access to all of the articles. And that means a level of funding I don't have, so yeah, go ahead.
Does economy mean also macro, microeconomy or management as well?
Well, this is the economy that is available on this repository. So it's a fairly small amount. It's about 20,000 articles, I think. There are some interesting things there. Maybe tell me a subject that you'd be interested in the economics domain.
Just for reference, for instance, leadership in hospitals. Which is actually management topics.
Okay, let's see. It depends a lot on the researchers. Here's one article that's coming up with those keywords. Is that reasonable? Is that interesting? No?
No, not exactly. No.
We can try again. Because the keyword search is exclusive. It must contain all of the keywords. Yeah, it would be nice to have access to those other archives. Okay, we have a little bit more here. Expansion strategies for hotel performance. Gains and losses, revenue management, sustainable business model. Any of those interesting to you?
No.
No.
Not, because the hospital is some sort of specific.
In hospital, the leadership or management is actually specific comparing to others industry,
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you do research on this subject, or when you read research, where do you find the articles? Is it in a specific journal, or is there a more general repository?
I think that mostly you can find it in management publication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But is there a central location where all of those publications are held?
No, I'm not sure. It's like a database. I suppose it is mostly in the field of, the Harvard Business Review. It's something like sort that actually published that sort of articles. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. So thank you. I hope it's useful. That's my hope here. And if you didn't get the free code for your own use, we'll send it out some way. And please do let me know. I'll send you the articles I'm generating now. And if there's something useful, then I'd love to know. Thank you for your time.